from yesterday, where we had a very interesting discussion with some of the designers from Indore and architect Shashi Prabhu. Now today, we are connecting with some of the most eminent names from the city of Mumbai. And just to quickly take you through the profile of the panelists and a quick round of introduction for all of you. I will start by introducing architect Manish Dikshit, who is the founding partner and design principal of Om Architects. After graduating from VIT's PVP College of Architecture, architect Manish worked for a particular period under eminent architect Hafiz Contractor. Over years, Manish developed some of the most complex and large-scale projects, ranging from sprawling townships to urban-scale master plans. Today, his firm has successfully recorded the delivery of more than 20 design projects, which spans across more than 10 countries, including UAE and Spain and Singapore. His body of work and the work that his firm does, it's very, very diverse. So from a kindergarten to a luxury home, to township, to hospitality, it's extremely diverse and spread across various geographies. He has been awarded multiple times, including 100 Top Design Luminaries by iDecorama, 50 Phenomenal Architects by Interior and Decor magazine. He was recently also awarded with Creative Excellence in Architecture and Interior Design by Society of Interiors and World Architecture. Prominent name, a very eminent speaker on various panels. On behalf of Johnson and Inside, I would want to extend a warm welcome to architect Manish on this panel.
Thank you.
Moving next, I would want to welcome architect Pushyamitra Londhe, Senior Associate Architect at Architect Hafiz Contractor, Mumbai. Architect Pushyamitra graduated from Nagpur University in the year 1998, and for past 22 years, he has been one of the anchors of the highly renowned architect Hafiz Contractors team. In various capacities and roles in the last 2 decades, he has delivered projects ranging from master planning to residential to commercial to IT parks to hospitality, you name it, and he has done it. A very diverse and wide-ranging experience and expertise, from luxury residences to mid-segment to affordable housing. He seems to have done it all and touched all aspects of building design. Some of the most iconic buildings and developments in the past 2 decades, he has been one of the key parts of those developments, which includes the complex developments like Sahara Ambi Valley, the Lavasa Hill City, then the Imperial, which is one of the tallest superstructures for residential, high quality luxury residential. He has been instrumental in the design and development of that. He has also recently completed another iconic structure in Kolkata, which I personally can vouch. It is one of the best structures I have seen in Kolkata, which is the 42. And the name has already started to become a landmark in the city of Kolkata. A very accomplished and supremely gifted architect, and one of the pillars, as I already said, of architect Hafiz Contractors practice. A very warm welcome, architect Pushyamitra, to the panel, and we are honored to have you with us. Moving next, we have another eminent name, architect Rahul Mehta from PG Patki Architects. He is a senior associate who has been with PG Patki Associates for more than a decade and a half. PG Patki Associates, I don't need to give any introduction. They are one of the leading names in the field of architecture on the landscape of India. And in the last 45 years, they have built a legacy which very few can boast. Extremely innovative designs, very diverse ideas, and anything from IT offices to corporate campuses to luxury hotels to multi-speciality hospitals. This firm and Rahul in specific, they have done phenomenal job in the last decade and a half. Some of the key customers and some of the landmark projects that Rahul has done has been with Shapurji Palunji, Lunkad Reality, Runwal, ST Corp, Market City, and K Raheja Corp. Rahul has been a very eminent speaker and moderator of various conferences also, and Rahul has also been, his projects have been published into multiple design magazines over the years. Moving next, I would want to welcome architect Sachin Bhatt, who is the director from the super successful Edifice Design Consultants. Architect Sachin has been associated with Edifice for more than 2 decades, if I am not wrong. And he is one of the key members of the leadership team and associated with Edifice as a director. He specializes in large complex campus designs and has been instrumental in delivering some of the most complex large projects in the past decade or so, including the campuses for Tata Consultancy Services, Hitachi Consulting, Cipla, and Sintel. His body of work involves handling the complete ecosystem of a project, right from design to the handover. Additionally, Sachin has also been spearheading the HR and finance function, which is very interesting to know for an architect. So kudos to you. And last but not the least, what I can say about Sachin is that he's a very simple man when it comes to how he conducts himself or how he leads the life. But he is a simple man who loves conquering a lot of challenging and complex situations. So we are again very honored to have you on the panel, Sachin. Thank you very much for your time. Last and surely not the least, I am honored to welcome architect Salil Rana Dive on this panel. It is incredible honor for me to connect with you again, sir, after a very long time. Architect Salil graduated from the iconic CEPT CEPT Ahmedabad. In an exchange scholarship program, he studied at ETH in Zurich. He is a fellow at Indian Institute of Architects and also a member of Architect Association of London. 3 decades of very rich, diverse, and innovative practice now. One of the most prominent names when it comes to the design landscape of India in the past couple of decades. His spectrum of work, if I see several noted projects, very diverse in terms of the scale, in terms of typologies, in terms of the locations, the geographies that he has done. A very passionate jazz lover. He is also a regular practitioner of Iyengar yoga, which I am sure I would want to take some tips now because the situation calls for it. And a very accomplished high altitude trekker as well. So a very colorful, very positive, a very vivid personality is there with us today. It's a pure joy for me to welcome you on the panel, sir. And I look forward to have a interesting round of discussion. So on behalf of Prism Johnson Limited and HR Johnson Division. I would want to extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you. It is always a pleasure to connect with the creative minds, because at least to learn something new every single time when we connect with you all. Just to set the tone for the discussion and just to put things into a context. And before that, just to brief you about myself, I represent Johnson. My name is Harsh Upadhyay, and I am associated with Johnson in capacity of Vice President Business Development. Most of the work that I do is pertaining to the design fraternity. We work very, very closely with designers and architects all across the country, and my colleagues have been connected with you all, I'm very sure. That is how we are talking today. To set the tone, I'll tell you, this comes from business context. There is a particular product in our portfolio, which is called Positive Tile. Now, Positive Tile has only one key benefit or feature, which says that it emits negative ions, which elevate the mood by helping the secretion of a particular hormone called serotonin. And what it does, it combats depression, it relieves stress, it boosts positive energy, and it refreshes the person. So when I was going through the content of this particular product, somehow I felt that possibly the whole world today is in need of these four things. Something which can help us combat the fear, something which can relieve the stress levels in which most of the people in this world are living today, something which can boost the positivity in us. Because a lot of situation is bad, no denying the fact, but somehow so much of indulging into discussions and just thinking and rethinking and again rethinking what is there in store for us in the future possibly has made all of the people very paranoid and negative in terms of thought process, and it is surely affecting mental health. We have been reading every day. Now I have stopped even reading some of the news articles. People committing suicides also because of depression, which is a very I will say negative thing and a very, very depressing news. And my heart literally goes out for all the poor and migrants who have been facing all kind of hardships. But at the end of the day, there is one saying which I think most of us would believe in, and that is, this too shall pass. Someday we will emerge out of it stronger, better, through our resilience. And that is why we have been looking for inspiration. We have been seeking positivity. We have been seeking those negative ions. And I guess those ions are found in abundance when it comes to our design fraternity. You guys, for you, every project, I guess, is starting life afresh. What happened in the last project, that is done, dusted, closed. Every time you start a new project, it's a new life, it's a new beginning. That's how I see it. You can possibly add to it. So we now want to get some inspiration from you, and we would just want to let it flow, starting from, I think, architect Salil. Salilji, how this forced period of isolation, I will say, because we have all been working from home, I know, how this has treated you as a creative person, and are there any positives here that you have taken out from it which you would want to retain and carry forward when we go back to the new or old normal, whichever?
So, well, thank you for having me and the kind introduction you made. I mean, you know, the world is in a mess right now, and, you know, I don't think there's any leader in the world that being able to, in a way, give anybody a direction. I mean, they're all shooting themselves in the foot, trying to pretend that there is some path forward. And frankly, right now, at least, I don't think any in the world, really knows what is to be done next. It's like this whole Abhimanyu in a Chakravyuh, now you're stuck in there and now they don't know how to get out and all things are happening. So anyway, they have their own thing. Myself, I think, there has been opportunities, like you said, in the middle of this situation. One, of course, is, this whole period of silence. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, When was the last time that you actually didn't hear any noise in traffic and the air was so clean? There's a wonderful thing that you can enjoy. You can hear actually wake up with the sound of the birds. The fact that you can, so, I mean, this whole idea, even just the silence in terms of introspection. I mean, I think as an architect and any creative person, I mean, this whole idea of being able to introspect, is I think a wonderful thing that recharges you. You look at yourself and you look at everything that's happening around you, and you actually internalize things and say, okay, now, and in a way, there is a process that we all look at as architects to sort of try to internalize things and then sort of, being able to join the dots of what's going on, even in our projects. And I mean, this is a wonderful thing about, introspecting about life as it's being seen now, almost in third person, because you're kind of away. But there is also something that I think is, that I feel at least is the fact that even though one is individually perhaps isolated, there is a very, very strong sense of connectedness that one feels. I mean, one realizes how one is connected, as human beings to each other, to society, to communities, to, how, if one part of it is hurting, the other part actually, actually feels the pain. That has become very, in a sense, almost very direct, and lots of times when you're sort of teaching students, or when you're trying to get people to understand architecture, and you're saying that it's not about making a building. I mean, that's in a way almost incidental in the understanding of what architecture is. And this is almost like a case to point, of trying to tell people, look at nature, look at society, look at communities, look at interconnectedness. There's so many aspects. This whole idea of, how quickly nature has rejuvenated itself, in terms of the air getting clean and the water getting clean. And we've been trying for decades to, think that we can clean the Ganga, and it's suddenly, the water is already, becoming clean by itself, just because we've not actually entered the water. So there's a lot of positives, and, the fact that, there's something for us to learn from this. I look at it very positively. I do look at every big sort of shift in, in sort of this disruption, in a sense, in human life, in a sense. And it is pretty much only human life. I don't think any other life on the planet seems to have got disrupted except the human species. And every this disruption like this always has some impact. It may not be immediate. It's not like, that tomorrow morning all the, projects are going to suddenly have, different thing. But it will happen over 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. You're going to see the shift, in the way people think. And people are going to be thinking differently. I mean, I cannot believe, in that sense, I'm optimistic about the fact that I cannot believe that people will not take the good lessons from this. And sort of internalize them, and they will start, making changes. I think our cities will change over, a couple of decades. The way we look at social housing will change. Perhaps, the fact that you will want every, down to the extent that you'll probably want every house to have a balcony will change. I mean, things will change, I think across everybody's thinking in small ways and big. So, yeah, I mean, just as an opening thing, I would say that I look at it positively. I think, there is something optimistic that I would see over the next 10 years that would sort of actually help mankind to get, sort of aligned again.
Very interesting. In fact, a couple of points I have just noted down. One very interesting point that you mentioned was introspection and internalizing the whole situation. So I'll take this statement to Sachin, architect Sachin. How much this whole period has given you time to introspect what have been the key positives that you have taken out, and how do you wish to retain those things or apply them forward? What has been the experience?
So experience has been it's a revelation. It's basically a process of evolution, I believe, for everybody. I don't think anybody had expected to either be prepared or be ready to kind of accept the way things were thrown at us. So initially, in fact, the day when we decided to work from home, it was like that moment of exhilaration where you believe that, okay, you were planning to, at one point, all of us would have thought that we would like to work from home, lead that pace of life that is a little more slower. And you suddenly felt that you have that opportunity, but then the next day you realize that you're spending 6 hours a day doing the work that your house help would have done in an hour, right? And that's life for you. But I guess there's a lot of positive that you can take out of it. When demonetization happened, of course, there are, I don't want to say which side I fall under, but then there were two ways to look at it. You had people queuing up. There were people who did not have access to the money, hard-earned money that they actually owned. And the other side of it is where today you have even the newspaper guy, your milkman actually accepting Paytm and Google Pay, right? I don't see that would have happened had demonetization not happened. And I don't think that would have moved so fast had it not been for that disruptive change. So disruption comes with its own, as Salil was mentioning, it comes with its own positives and negatives. I think there are a lot of positives that we take ahead. Today, in fact, if you look at it, I couldn't imagine Bombay streets not having vehicles on them. All right. And we always thought that Bombay would never have enough of roads. And what COVID's done is that it's told you that you actually can run Bombay really not having vehicles on the roads as well, right? We're continuing to work from home. So I guess the positive is going to be the fact that we all have realized that the normal that used to be earlier need not necessarily be the right way to do things. There are better ways to do. There are less disruptive ways of going about work as normal. And we as architects, actually, I think we fall in a damn good place where we have the opportunity to be authors of this change, at least in some manner. And I think this forum, this webinar that we have right now, I think we will be talking about a lot more solutions that we have got to offer from our side as well.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting, especially the demonetization example, I guess was bang on. That is a realization that I absolutely am with you on that, because even I had never thought that my auto guy or a milkman will be accepting Paytm. So that's one plus which a disruption brought. Now moving to architect Rahul. There was a statement which Salilji made, and that was, it's only the human race which seems to have got this disruption today. And in a way, if you see, the rest of the species are not affected, one. Two, the nature seems to be healing itself from the scars which were gifted to it by us. So a lot of positives already being seen. I come from a city which is on banks of Ganga, and I have lived half my life in a city which was on banks of Yamuna. And I've seen the situation in the both rivers were in. And today when I see those pictures which are coming to me, it literally lifts my spirit that finally in my lifetime I am able to see those rivers flowing the way they are. Are these going to be short-lived experiences as per you, or do you think we will be taking these lessons forward and possibly applying some new practices to retain these goods of this pandemic?
So, thanks for having me here, firstly, Harsh. It's a good question and a very interesting conversation that we've struck, and I think we'll continue to have. From your question, And one thing that we know about the human race and about how we work as architects as well, and I'm sure with the pun intended, everyone will understand one thing, that there's only one constant that we are aware of, and that's change. And we are all used to making changes. And a lot of times our clients want us to be more adaptive. So we are now going to learn to be a little more adaptive, I think. And nature probably wants us to be more sensitive. And over a few 50 or 100 odd years, nature throws up some challenges for all of us to tackle. So maybe this is a course correction that we are being asked to make, and I'm sure that we will learn. I'm extremely certain that we will learn, we will evolve, and that has been the strength of our race. If anything, again, if I were to talk about our fraternity, we all talk about differential importances and priorities across the globe when you talk about various typology of projects. What this one big challenge to our race has done is that from a design standpoint, it's going to set up a few new ergonomic standards, which are probably global. And all of us sitting here, everyone on this panel and everyone who's not on this panel, is probably going to find a way in which how we make those global common requirements more local and more adaptive for our lifestyles. So this change is going to bring in a lot of good. And one thing that a lot of people may or may not realize is that while architects are not at the forefront of a pandemic or of a war, but anything and everything that affects a city, affects a nation, and when a city rebuilds, the guys who are at the forefront of redefining the skyline, redefining the way in which we live, are urban planners, architects, landscapers, and I think this is that opportunity, guys, that we've been given. That sit back, I think Salil put it very rightly, introspect. What have we been doing? Like Sachin said, we never thought we'll be able to work from home. Would we ever imagine Mumbai would go to a halt? No. Will Mumbai work without cars on the roads, the trains buzzing? No, we never thought that can happen. Did we think we can design not on the drawing board, but on TeamViewer and Zoom and WebEx? It's happening. We are adapting. We've become much more sensitive to what happens at home, what happens outside. Within 2 months, we've learned a lot more about those things. So I think this is an opportunity. And if I'm not wrong, so Bruce Springsteen in Dancing in the Dark had said, it only takes a spark to ignite a fire. I think this is that spark. Let's look at it in a very positive way, and let's try and see what better we can do from here.
Very interesting. Just a spark to ignite a fire.
Yeah.
So that takes me to architect Manish. So Manish ji, have you found your spark?
I think all of us have so far. And I agree. I couldn't agree more what Rahul just said right now, the spark that we all needed. And I think more than the spark, let's be honest, I think all of us have been desperately waiting for a break like this. 2 months of break, not really doing what we were doing every day. Like me and my team, we are getting time to research on products which we could not do earlier. Like it was too packed. And I think spending time with the family, not traveling, getting frustrated with those 2 hours of packed roads every day for a meeting, or, all those things, it's all gone. And it is so beautiful. You're able to still do all of that, sitting at home, spending time with your family, think better. I started what Salil does. I started doing yoga now. All these things, they are making our lives so good. And I think it's necessary to have this kind of situation coming once in a while in a positive way. Of course, economically, it is going to be a disaster, but I think we have always found ways to move on. And this is also going to be similar to that.
Very nice. So, a positive emerging out of it is all of us somewhere have got time to introspect, to look at, sort of take a step back, look at how things have been. Do I want things to be the same going forward? Uh, Learn from whatever goods are coming out of this whole situation. And while the negatives, as of now, outweigh the positives, but I'm very sure the whole balance will tilt in the favor of positives very soon. And rightly mentioned by Architect Rahul that there is a spark which will ignite a fire of rebuilding the whole thing in a very positive manner. This again takes me back to Architect Salil. There is a sense of fearfulness in the next generation. The youngsters are very fearful, though they are the ones who are better at technology per se as compared to the generation before them. But somehow I sense a feeling of lot of frustration and fearfulness coming out of this whole situation, and they seem very concerned about their future. So what is your recipe for all those youngsters, so that all the students who are listening to us, from JJ School of Arts to Rachna Sansad to all the architectural colleges who are live listening to us, they can take some positives and some inspiration and start sort of revamping the way they are approaching their careers?
So I'm just trying to understand the fear that you're mentioning. Is it for all students of all batches and all years, or is it only for the final year graduates?
Especially the final
Yeah,
year.
because exactly. Because I think the younger kids are perhaps doing online classes and doing online sort of interactions in any case. What is a positive in the sense is that you're also realizing that even though you're, sort of chilled out at home and doing, things in your own time, and perhaps there are milestones that I'm just first talking about these other batches that they have to sort of have interactions and, online classes and stuff. You do feel the need that, ultimately the human species is someone, is about, being together, that we can't live like this in a sort of a silo, by oneself. And there are lots of things that you learn just because you're with with others, whether you're with friends or within a classroom, or interaction is really how a lot of learning takes place. So I mean, just having sort of an online thing is not education. And it's, you might be able to tick the boxes saying history has been taught to you kind of thing as a subject, but there's a lot of other learning that happens, when you're, in that sort of whole community and that space together. So that is something, that I'm sure, I mean, but that is affecting everybody. I mean, I'm sure even, for us to motivate our teams in the office today, you're with a current lot of people that you already know is fine. But I mean, if today I recruit somebody new in the office in the next couple of months, and have never having met this person physically, and the technology allows me to perhaps recruit somebody who's not even from the city. I mean, it could be from another city. If you're going to work offline, online, and connect with somebody online, it doesn't matter where they are. They could be in Pune, they could be in Phuket. I mean, they could be anywhere. The only thing is that to build up camaraderie, motivation, etc., etc. I mean, it's a whole new, different ball game that one needs to be able to actually understand. I can get someone to make drawings for me, but to be able to actually, sort of come into a creative space and think alike. I'm old school, but I do believe that you need to sit together, interact, sort of sketch things, throw things at each other for you to really get, things happening, get your sort of 6B lead on the back of your palm kind of a thing, that you still need to do a lot of these sort of very tactile sort of stuff, because ultimately we are not, we actually build real things, so you cannot just sort of work in this virtual space and then, sort of pretend that you can build the real stuff. So that's one. Final year students, I would say that it's a matter of, when people go out for internships and things, I mean, for you to be able to finish your specific sort of program of what your internship is supposed to be. Not that others who come and sit in your office are very diligent. I mean, let me say that, the guys who come before you sort of all these years are not the most diligent guys because they're coming and sitting in the office. They could be sitting in the office and doing, sort of pretending that they're there, but the output is not necessarily. So, in fact, you might actually have guys who have to give more output because now it's all online. Maybe you're working for a few months online, doing internships. And like you said, if they want to have the enthusiasm to work for multiple offices, do online thing, I mean, I'd say hats off to those students because the guys who come, so I mean, you're going to have to deal with things differently. I cannot sort of give us, an answer to what do they do kind of a thing. But I mean, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. I mean, there was a time, for example, when I was studying in Ahmedabad in the mid 80s, and every March or April there would be student riots in the university there. And there was one time when the riots got so bad that we actually, our school had nothing to do with the university, Gujarat University, but the riots used to be all around us, and the whole city went up in flames, and the riots went, there was curfew and all kinds of stuff happened, and we lost the semester. I mean, they came in, literally, the students marched in and they shut the school down to say, how can you be working when we are burning, kind of thing. And we lost a semester. I mean, we worked through summer, the times when you don't imagine that you would need to be in Ahmedabad in 47 and 48 degree temperature. But you dealt with it, things got shifted. I think over a period of about 3 semesters, they caught up the timetable again. And so things happen. I mean, this may, hopefully be something that might last for a year, and you're going to have to deal with it for a year in your life, where you might have to sort of do things differently from maybe what your predecessors have done in the immediate past, for example. And like you said, I mean, there may be a new normal here, so that's maybe you're the pioneers of the new normal. So why do you sort of get scared of saying, oh, I couldn't do what my friend did last year, kind of a thing. Maybe you're the first time that you're doing something differently. And maybe setting some sort of new milestones and new sort of things for moving forward. Things will change. I think everybody will sort of start looking and thinking differently, I think, so it's nothing to worry about. People are still not going to need to build. They're still going to need to, have homes. They're going to still need, so there's so many things that are going to still need to be done. It's not like architecture has stopped because of this pandemic, for example, so you're going to have to learn different tricks. And, but my thing is that you have to, while the fact that you're sitting at home and maybe doing lesser stuff than your school normally demands, maybe you can do a lot more reading, a lot more research, a lot more finding out, stuff that, for example, what Manish said. I mean, there are lots of things that you couldn't do, otherwise, that you could sort of take that time and do, and, sort of thing, increase your own knowledge and increase your own, sort of widen your sort of whole sphere of reference. And those are things that you can do. I mean, there's, normally, you're sort of packed in 16 weeks and you're supposed to do things. You have the opportunity that to do, 10 other things, now. So make the most of it.
Correct. Now I'll quickly take one more reaction on this particular question, and I'll go to architect Pushyamitra. Sir, your firm is always on the top of the list of most of the students coming out of these colleges when it comes to internships and things like that. What's your take? What message you would want to convey to them, the final year guys? I think
I don't think they have to fear about anything, because each year there are new students coming from different places. Even right now we had a lot of interns working in our office, and when this forced lockdown happened, we are able to and everybody, all this new generation, everyone has laptops or PCs at home, so the work was given to them and they're working, and in fact they don't have to worry. In fact, they are more tech savvy, so they've already been doing research in their work, in their colleges when they're studying. So I don't see. In fact, there are certain discussions happening where students from abroad were wanting to have internship, which is now possible, because earlier it was like a mental setback or a mental what do you call it, restriction what you had, that you physically had to go to some place and do your internship. it's all opened up now. It's like with all these, all of us, we as older generation also, you can see we have learned to use these webinars and all these online kind of meetings. They like what Rahul also said, like sketching and designing, everything has started. So these outside students from abroad also can now, log in and have internships. So there's nothing to fear. I don't see any reason to fear as such. And we still get a lot of students, and we'll still be getting them. So I don't see any as such fear to. It's in the mind what you really think. It's like that.
Thank you
It's
so
opened
much
up, I would
for,
say.
yeah, thank you so much for those reassuring words. Now, I'll come back to architect Sachin. Sachinji, you mentioned there are some positives of every disruptions which happens. Now, I would just want to take a cue from it and try and understand from you the positives of disruption. How are they going to get reflected in the design thinking which will evolve post this whole scenario? How those positives are going to be amalgamated into the design ideas that you guys are going to come up with now? What will change?
So let's, one solution is not going to fit all. Each typology of a project requires a different kind of approach. But let's take the case of what we're doing right now, right? So working from home seems like going to be the new norm. And for it to be successful, we need to make sure that efficiencies don't go down. For efficiencies to not go down, you will need to make sure that people who are appointed for a particular job are able to do exactly what they've been appointed for, and not sit and mop, the floor or wash utensils, for example, right? So for you to be able to do that, you need to make sure that you're facilitating an ecosystem where the house help, for example, and the support staff are able to kind of be available. And I think we live in an ecosystem which is reflects the hypocritical nature that we all are used to. We are absolutely comfortable asking a maid to come home, cook food, which is supposed to be the most hygienic area of the house. You're allowing them to get into a kitchen and do everything. But then you would completely turn a blind eye to the kind of hygiene or the sanitation levels at the place where they stay, right? So you look at any of the SRAs, they've been designed to fail. The way we look at SRA projects until now, the obvious approach would be you carve out a space on a plot for the SRA development, and then you carve out another part of the plot and do it for free sale, right? And you kind of create a dense development for the SRA. What's going to happen is that we don't take into account the cultural aspects. The guys who are staying in the slums were used to a particular way of life. They would interact with each other. It was more of a community kind of a living, and you suddenly are making them stay in vertical high rises, pigeonholes like that, right? So what needs to be done is that we need to kind of make sure that we are creating solutions which take care of that, as well as facilitate the fact that tomorrow, when you need them, they are going to be a part of where you are. So let's say if we were to, if you take into consideration the any kind of residential development, we've got a huge podium at the bottom which caters to, let's say, the parking lot, right? Why wouldn't we be able to, let's say, look at expanding the parking lot or the podium level completely and accommodate, these SRA modules between them itself, between courtyards, right? Smaller little courtyards, and actually have light coming inside them. You have all these SRA developments and flats which are overlooking that space. What happens is it makes it a little more humane. It allows the entire development to be a single one, which means that the entire development is going to be cleaned, maintained by the same set of society staff, administrative staff. Your kids are going to be playing with the kids of these guys as well. And I mean, when I used to go to college, to school, I had my classmates who would probably come from a different background, right? And it just didn't matter to us. I guess it's just that the society has moved up to a point where we've kind of just made that divide get a little more deeper. if we facilitate that, what happens is that you're creating an ecosystem, a society where people are more bound to each other. Tomorrow, if somebody, let's say, has an issue with the virus, today we've had some issues with some people testing positive in the society, and everybody gets together to kind of support them, etc. The same, but we can't do the same thing with let's say your driver, for example, because they stay in a ghetto which is inaccessible to you, right? But if it were within the same development, you are in a position to go ahead and cater to them. And I think it's a win-win, right? So you have everybody accessible to you, readily accessible, and it's easy to move around. So I guess these are solutions that we have the opportunity to implement, at least propose to clients. And I think that's where we are working towards. I mean, right now we are actually putting together a module to assess what will be the financial feasibility of doing something like that.
Interesting. In fact, a very, very different perspective from how we have been looking at things till now.
Yeah.
This takes me to Architect Manish once more. Architect Manish, how we have been talking about the introspection part and internalizing things, and has it sort of impacted your design philosophy in these times, and is it going to reflect in your designs going forward in any manner?
In terms of I don't think so, because my design is all for my clients, people. I don't think so they are changing as much as we expected them to change. In terms of, yes, they are as of now they are doing things without maids in their house. Offices are all kind of being remote operated, with a lot of people are working from home, and we are seeing that change. So except that, I think all of us, we have learned to sweep and mop the floor. We know to cook food, we know to clean utensils, so we are experts in that. And I think one thing we have realized, how much hard work that our maids have been doing all these years, how much hard work our laborers in our field they have been doing, where without them right now we don't have any sites operational. We realize they are a biggest pillar of our ecosystem, which we have lost. And I think we have lost them because of us. Like what Sachin was explaining, the slums, the vertical slums which we created, the kind of horrible living condition we created, that is the reason why they ran away. It's not just because they did not have food. It is because they did not have a proper living condition. They could be just spreading this virus sitting at home in a 10 by 10 small room that they have. They all, I think 4 or 5 of them, they stay together. Like currently I am at my grandparents' house, which is in Bombay itself. So I have been here for the last 2 weeks. So this is a little smaller house compared to where I generally stay. And I'm finding this to be quite compact, and it is making me feel uncomfortable. Now I'm just looking at it the other way, and my wife was telling me, imagine the ones who have been staying in that 10 by 10 house, what about them? So it makes you realize all these situations. I hope my clients also, they understand the meaning of what did this lockdown taught you right now, and try to implement it. We have, as architects, we have got a limit where we can educate them, but beyond that, we all know it does not work always on our side.
Interesting. So that is a very different perspective, and the way you should be looking at things. I will carry on this question again to Rahul. Rahul, do you think I'll just add an extension to this question. Do you think this whole situation is going to impact the psychology of the clients also? The expectations that they used to have vis-a-vis what they are going to have in the future. Any positives coming out of it?
I think one thing that will happen is that the expectations will only increase. They are not going to decrease. So, like Manish rightly said, I think our clients are always going to be demanding. But I would say one thing, that knowing all the guys I've worked with, I think these guys understand the concerns as well today. And I think what this break is going to do is it's just going to highlight to everybody that, listen, guys, I think we went wrong somewhere. I think Sachin started this conversation about SRA, and Manish touched upon it. And I think if we want to see a change, we've got to be the change. And as architects, we've got the opportunity to always be the change, because we are the guys who design and we are the guys who build. And our ecosystem consists of people from all stratas. We need to be more sensitive. This is what we've learned today living at home. Like you said, you understand why your housekeeper should be valued so much more. You understand the schedule that people go through. So I think we need to be more sensitive towards their needs. We need to be more sensitive towards the way we work with our own people. I think you started this second leg of conversation with Salil, where you said some students are worried about, and are fearing what's going to happen. That fear is the start for everyone. That fear is with the person living in that SRA, is with the migrant who went off. That fear is with the guys who are working with us. That, are we going to have another project the next 2 months down the line? What's our economy going to say? But I think all of this adversity will eventually tell our minds that there is going to be an opportunity to change and innovate. And I think that's the crux of how we should approach this. Be a little more sensitive, be a little more flexible to the way you've been doing things before this happened. We've probably been destined to learn. Let's learn and let's show nature that we can evolve.
Rightly said, very rightly put. I think one of the underlying messages that I could take out was every adversity presents an opportunity, and there is an opportunity to sort of start reshaping the future that we would want to leave as a legacy.
Yes.
So I'll
just want to add one point there. To what Sachin said. And I think on SRA, I really did agree with the way in which Sachin went about it. And I think this should also highlight to all our lawmakers that, maybe tweaking our DCRs is critical. And we need to revisit the way in which we look at it. And all of us here can help change that.
True. Very true. So I'll come back to Architect Salil wants to add something.
Yeah, this is just about the whole SRA thing. I mean, this is something that I've been, advocating in even some seminars earlier for the last few years, and then even on a couple of the webinars over the last 2 months. And there are a growing number of architects who are sort of, and not just architects, I mean, people from different walks of life in the city, questioning this whole idea of the SRA. I mean, it's a completely failed idea. It started 20 years ago, and they wanted to build 10 million homes in 10 years. What they have built is 1.5 lakh homes in the last 20 years. And these include all the SRA projects that everybody is referring to. I mean, it's a complete and abject failure, basically, because they have allowed the land to become the transaction between doing social housing. And suddenly now, nobody talks about, I mean, one of the big reasons why we've had so badly hit with a pandemic in Bombay is because of congestion. What do you do in an SRA project? You first take all those guys in the slums, and then you make them even denser, because they were actually spread over this whole, say, 2 acres of land, for example, or 20 acres of land, depending on whatever. And then they all squeezed, because the guy who's now bid for the land, this so-called developer character, wants to now get the rest of the land for free sale. So not only is he completely congesting these people into some sort of pigeonhole penitentiary kind of houses where everybody gets TB, the rest of the 80% he adds more houses in and then says this is a free sale. I mean, it's a complete, sort of unmitigated criminal disaster. You be part of any SRA project with any developer, and if you're doing that project for 3 years, believe me, not even 10% of your discussions with that developer on the project will be about the SRA housing. It will only be for the free sale part, कि तुम बिल्डिंग कैसे दिखा रहा है, हमको शंघाई जैसा बिल्डिंग बनाने का है, लेट्स पुट अ lap pool there, glass bottom, falana dingana. Those poor guys whose land you actually you pull them into these little we've sort of allowed the government and sort of arm twisted in sort of partnership with the guys who make the laws to say that, oh, you know what, this 300, 400, 500 square foot house, for these, so many number of, you're not talking about human beings. You're only talking about the, number of houses you're going to build. And you're just squeezing them in because, by the law, it's allowed. It's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, why is that land becoming up for sale? I mean, today, if there is a, land like Dharavi or a land like Goregaon, the land doesn't have a value unless you start putting a value to it. No, today, when you build a railway station, you don't say that the footprint of the railway station is worth 300 crores of land. It's an infrastructure project. These people are infrastructure. Don't we realize it? I mean, now we are just branding them as migrant labor. We are all migrants in the city, boss. Everybody here who's on this panel also has come into the city, maybe one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations ago. Why are these people being called migrants? They're all part of your city. They're part of your infrastructure. Why do you need some fellow to come and put money and give them a free house? You think the guy can't afford it? He can afford it if you give him a sort of a long-term loan. They can be, the social housing construct of actually, sort of making these people part owners into the. People say, you know what, you give them a house and फिर वो बेच के चले जाते हैं. Dude, they should make the architect and the developer stay in their house for 6 months after they get a to give it a completion certificate. If that architect comes out alive and the developer doesn't come out completely mad, then you give him a certificate. Make them stay there. Yeah. Are you trying to tell me? I think in my view, if they want to continue with this SRA formula, they should be making the SRA, the quality of the SRA, the criteria for the costing and the agreement value and the registration of the free sale. If the SRA has a quality, first quality, not because it follows the law. The law is only making you sort of making pigeonholes. You say, okay, I'm going to give you a really nice, beautiful social housing scheme. If that scheme is a grade A, which is, you get Mr. Ratan Tata who criticized this whole scheme to, have set up a list of criteria what the social housing needs to be. Get, Mr. B.V. Doshi, who's done, housing schemes like Aranya to set up the criteria what the social housing quality needs to be. You let the SRA, which is, the irony is that this is called slum rehabilitation, but the discussion is never about the slum rehabilitation. The discussion is only about the free sale. So you're looking at the brochure doesn't even mention the fact that there is an SRA housing in the project. You think people are trying to, think if the guy's SRA project is a grade 2, gets qualified as a B grade project, let him, his registration fees or his, agreement should become, property tax on it should become 2x. If it is a grade 3 project, like a third class project, let them pay 3x. Let me see which client goes to buy that person. Don't just say, oh, I made this beautiful building that is come straight out of Shanghai. It is the world's best building. But you put all these other guys, like worms in a can. And then you're trying to say, oh, but I built a Shanghai world-class building and I've got all these so-and-so lead platinum sort of ABCD and, got 20 gold medals from across some BAF, whatever, etc., etc. It's a shame. And architects are allowing this to happen. They're proudly trying to tell you about the building they built, but are they going to talk about the SRA that was part of the project? And the fact is that you're allowing it because you've given the currency to do this exchange. You've given the currency for somebody to say, I will give you a free house, and then he's going to push everybody under the carpet to clear up the land because then he wants to make money on the house, on this land that he's built. It's a scheme that is designed to fail. It is a scheme that is designed only for a few people to gain out of this. When you're talking about, we talk about GDP and this and that. Why don't we talk about happiness quotient? You tell me the people over there that you built. Have you built that habitat that is going to allow people to be healthy and allow people to be happy? Why and that is the majority of the population that lives on that so-called scheme. The real estate, the so-called, free sale part has got one flat of floor on these massive big floor plates with these lovely amenities. And there are, not even 20% of the population of that site is actually part of the free sale. But 80% of the population is squashed in there. Give me a happiness quotient. No, has an architect actually done this? So it's a scheme that is, and we are just allowing this to carry on like this. 20 years it has failed. For 20 years it has failed. Why are we allowing? I mean, today, I think one of the things that I have learned at least is that you cannot just remain, saying that I'm an architect and today my only sort of equation is because the client is giving me a check every, for the project I'm doing. Was the architecture we've taught talks about advocacy. We have to take a stand. You've got to get out of our sort of, these little comfort zone silos and move out and, actually start questioning things that are happening in the city around. I mean, aren't we ashamed of what these places are? Aren't we ashamed of the fact that for the last so many decades, we've not been able to solve it? Aren't we ashamed of it? And are we just sort of, you can't say, oh, there's a client I have to do a project for. Dude, let's not become mercenaries. We've got to get out and say, do the right thing. We are architects. You're not, just sort of there to have problems. I mean, sort of just to say that, we are going to build some sort of quick build, sort of log cabin kind of, contractors there. It's a larger, we have a larger goal to play here. I mean, if we are actually sort of, in a sense, fooling ourselves and sort of think ourselves, if we are not going to get out into, of doing something for the common good.
I think I'll quickly take a counter. I think I could see a lot of smiles from the panelists. Couple of very interesting comments flowing in from some friends from architect fraternity. Like I guess if I'm not wrong, this is architect Nilab Nagar writing to us. Salil, not all schemes are like that. Unfortunately, bad examples are making the schemes wrong. So
it's not about all schemes. Yeah, I'm talking about percentage numbers and actually how many. If you're doing one scheme where 5,000 people are affected, we are talking about 10 million people. I'm talking about over 20 years, you're looking at 10 million people. I'm not talking about one project with 5,000 people.
So I'll quickly come back to you. Let me just take an opinion from Nilab's colleague who is with us, architect Pushyamitra. I think he was raising a hand. I would want to just let his perspective also come on the table. So over to you, architect Pushyamitra.
Yeah, I would like to tell here that it's not about being making these people crammed up in spaces, but I've myself personally walked through these kind of developments before the SRA scheme had implemented. I walked through these slum pockets, and the way the people were staying, the kind of poor sanitation, things they had. It was no community spaces, nothing like what even Sachin was mentioning. If the SRA schemes initially, basically the idea was to make them their living more, make their lives more livable, giving them more better sanitation condition, making their lives more better. And that is the whole the main idea behind doing this, and that is what has happened, because I've done also a lot of schemes in SRA which have improved the lives of these people. And while 5-6 people staying in one jhopda, small, hardly not even 10 square feet of space, now they're getting better spaces to live. Built form, the jhopda is getting leak, its water is coming every monsoon into their houses. Now they're getting built spaces. Yeah, how we the space, the buildings, what we are doing for them, how we are giving them common amenities, all that matters, and that developers are sensitive to that, and they have been giving them. So there are a lot of now suddenly there are a lot of different communities staying together, whether from different religions and different caste and creed, and everyone has their demands of having their own spaces, and they have been giving that. I've walked in pockets of slums which are adjoining the Mumbai coastline. Just imagine, every high tide, the water enters their house and it relieves in there, and they're just living the life they, in such conditions. Now, okay, one more point here. What happens is, why these people have been housed in the same location or in the similar area is because they have livelihoods are like that. We've seen all the maids and servants and drivers today, we were, serving us, and we want them close to our houses. Why these people are housed in the same location? Because their livelihoods are, if you go and put them, there are certain schemes which have come up for the slum development, or even this PAP, what they call it, where these people have been moved out to long distant places. Now they have been suffering that how they can go back and get their work, in the areas they're working. So the scheme in principle as a concept is well. The guidelines which have been done maybe have to be relooked at it, so that makes their lives also much more better. It is already there, but it has been made more livelier, like what Sachin was saying, maybe to incorporate certain things which already there are gardens, there are pocket, they have this playground for them. There are so many things already in place, but it has to be improved. Maybe we can relook at the policymakers can relook at those things. But definitely these schemes are to improve the people. 60% of the land is or for the people who are already staying there. It's only the 40% of the land or what is lesser is given to the sale component of it. So it is not all a negative or a bad situation that they have been just crammed up. No, their lives and their situation is improved, and definitely there are people who have been happy about it. Yes, there are different pockets of people and different in society. There are different kind of people. There are certain people who take advantage of that also. When they get this kind of free housing, okay, this is where I personally feel that it should not be given free, but at a nominal rate it has to be given, because then they should value it. To be free housing, they tend to go away after a few years of whatever the fixed years they have to stay there. So that's where some policy norms or some changes have to happen. But definitely these schemes are very very good and extremely important for improving the lives of these people.
The whole point is that only, that if we are all agreeing that there need not be free housing, and I think the whole point is that if you sort of start, the moment you start saying they don't need to have a free house, because they're all earning. I mean, it's not that they cannot take long-term loans, they cannot be given, some sort of bonds coming in. There are lots of, financial instruments that can be made available. Point is this: the moment you take out the free component out of it, suddenly then the question is, now why do you need another builder to make the free house? Because now I don't need a free house. The guy's going to pay for it himself.
If the government is going to fund it, is going to
no. So my point is, we have as
the cost. Somebody has to pay the cost for it.
Government is saying it. No. I don't agree that because you say the
cost has to come out of it. The cost of construction.
What cost? Do you say the cost of a railway station? What is the cost of a railway station?
Any project has to be made viable.
What are you talking? I mean, come on. I mean, we cannot be giving excuses for land sharks and builders to make money. That's the only thing we are doing. And if this was such a great idea, frankly, in the last 10 years, all these slums would have gone away. No? The fact that they have not gone, the fact that they've increased, the moment you said that there's a free house.
Guys, I would want to step in here, Salil and Pusha. Yeah. There is I think merit in both arguments, but you need to look at it this way. I think it was a good intervention to do something about the concern and the habitat viabilities and the hygiene level. So I'm sure that the SRA schemes have in some cases worked, like Pusha said. I am sure, Salil, like you're saying, that they've probably gone completely amok in some of them. But what is important to say is that we guys, like Sachin said, are at the forefront. This debate is extremely healthy, and the more heated it gets, it shows our emotions are in the right place, and we actually want to service the guys who are able to provide the house, and we want to service the guys who are going to inhabit the house. I must say that I've been fortunate to work with a few clients who are extremely concerned about the guys who are being housed, and we've spent hours and hours and hours debating about their habitat as well. So there are people on both sides of the spectrum. Land sharks are there in the party who is going to develop the property also, and land sharks are also there who are just pointlessly inhabiting a land which was not theirs. So there's always going to be a debate. I think what Harsh has brought across in this question and in this very emotionally loaded SRA discussion correctly is the positive fact here is that we are all on the same page and we all want to provide a good habitat. Pushya is trying to push the point through, saying that, listen guys, we're trying to give a good habitat, and Salil is trying to say here that we should give one. So I think our hearts are in the right place, and I think this introspection is really what's going to help us after the next few months.
Yeah, we can streamline the regulations or the way.
Absolutely. Let's look at the regulations. Let's look at how we can play it better.
Yeah. I think very aptly put, and at the end of the day, the intent which has been shown by all the panelists has been the same, rightly articulated by you, Rahul, and I'm glad it came out, because it shows that we all are somewhere looking forward to do something good once we are capable of going back to our regular work lives. Just to lighten up the whole thing, would want to quickly go back to architect Sachin and would want to understand from you any positives on the personal front arising out of this whole thing. Just to kickstart it, I can quote, if you see my haircut, I came to know that my wife is a better hairdresser than most of the ones I have seen in all across these cities. So possibly I'm going to save a lot of money by this new realization.
And also, Harsh, you have no option but to say that.
But Sachin is lucky. He doesn't have to need an experiment on him.
Well,
Yeah.
so the thing is, so the good thing has been that we've actually got time. As Manish was mentioning, it's given us time to spend a little more time on ourselves, right? So you've realized that you've got some bit of time to actually do those walks whenever, of course, there's been no lockdown here internally and they've stopped us going down as well. But except for those few days, we've actually had the time to go out, take a walk, take a stroll, and actually get that bit of health aspect into our daily lives as well. And I think so the way things are going, fiber is actually going to be what road has been for the city until now, right? So fiber is going to be the next infrastructure that needs to kind of be focused on. So if we were actually, and I'm probably digressing to an extent there because I'm taking it a little ahead in terms of intervention by us as architects. But then if we were to look at, now that we've all seen that roads need not necessarily be flooded with vehicles. If there was a way where we were actually able to take away one lane from the arterial roads and created those tunnels, the trenches that are required to run fiber and power so that they can easily be maintained, over years, and convert that stretch of the road into bicycle tracks, into jogging tracks, and a green strip. I think the city desperately needs litigation-free land to create the greens. And this is probably the only litigation-free green space that's going to be available to us. And if you're able to make most of it, I think what's going to happen is that it's going to facilitate walk to work, which we've always been talking about. We need to work towards repurposing buildings. I think that's going to be another sector that's going to come up, because a lot of buildings would probably, developers may come back saying that I have nobody to lease it out. Malls may probably get converted into offices. There are already commercial buildings that are getting converted into data centers. So things like that, right? So repurposing is going to be another big sector that's going to come up. And I think the moment we are able to, at a town planning level, address the walk to work ideology that we all architects talk about, a quarter mile, formula, then we are in a position to actually use this green strip that we've created and make the whole ecosystem work. I think that's a great opportunity that's available in front of us.
Actually, I think that's very nicely put. Just going back to architect Manish. Manish, in one of the
Pushyamitra wanted to speak something. He raised his hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly I did not see. Yeah, please add so.
Was talking about this, his point he was putting forth. I was just remembering the quote which we had when I was doing Lavasa, where it was live, work, and play. So that is what we have. This lockdown has revived those memories and revived those quotes. What we really had that was coined, that you while you work, you also live your life. While you live your life, you also play and enjoy it. So that's particular thing what has been really, it's a big positive what has come out of this lockdown, which you had to, after introspection, you really know that this is the way you should live. It's not that you only keep on working or you only keep on playing, but you should live life, enjoy it, work, and also make the most of it.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of people have been vouching for it also, that even the idea of work from home and home office per se has evolved over the last 2 months. The way the home offices were set up initially and how they have sort of moved in the last 2 months and evolved at a stage, it seems to be another process of learning for everybody.
Absolutely.
Just trying to add another aspect to this, and I think I'll go to architect Manish for this. Manish, there was another discussion in which somebody raised that one of the positives of this whole situation is that wellness will come up as one of the large segments and industries, and just trying to take your views, and then I'll go to other panelists also. How do you see wellness as an industry shaping up? Is it actually going that way? and could be one of the positives? And if yes, then how is the building design going to impact that whole shaping up of that segment?
When you say wellness, do you mean health food-wise or health exercise-wise?
I think it's a mix of both.
Okay.
Whether it is the yoga practices or the immunity building exercises and things like that. So wellness as a whole, as an industry.
Yeah. I don't think so. It has got any impact in terms of our building construction per se. Because after this, I think the next possible solution people are going to look at is how can we add home gyms, because or probably a multi-utility gym which can fold up and be going inside your wardrobe space, something like that, or in your office. Because common space like a community gym is something which could take some time for people to start believing in and trying to go back to. So this is where I personally feel it is going to be a situation where we're going to have a problem. About wellness in terms of food, I think something recently I have been hearing a lot is about hydroponic food processing. So that is also one way of looking at it. But I think we are doing all the wrong things which we are being told not to do during this lockdown. We are trying to do everything unnatural. The milk that we drink is so unnatural. The food that we consume, the restaurant food, the red color paneer tikka masala is red for no reason. I don't know why. All these things are so bad. I'm feeling so nice. I've been eating for the last 2 months at home, and my system feels so nice. I feel I'm breathing better air around because of just eating good food. So yoga, which we had, I mean, come on, we all are from India. I mean, this came from our country. We are not been practicing yoga, but we try to do all those fancy gymnastics and aerobics and some new thing, Pilates, something they keep saying. Yoga can be done in your living room for that matter. Why do you need a gym to go there and have fancy music, nice colorful equipment to do all those funny exercises where yoga can give everything to you? And at the same time, it's not only your physical health, but also your mental health. Food, try to follow what has been taught to us all these years. Why do we follow all these new fancy media created word of wellness when I can sit home and I can do, hold on a minute, sorry. So when we can sit at home and we can do what has been taught to us over years. My grandparents, they have been following that. This was my grandfather who just put the sticker, because in the evening at 6 p.m. he generally does his diya and agarbatti, and he comes and does this. He's 93. He's able to walk. He's doing everything by himself, and he's been healthy and active like this all these years because he has been following that routine. And we make it very fancy and try to do that. House should be how it has been always, community living. Don't mix that with the fancier word these days. That's what I would say about it.
I think I'll take another opinion here from someone who is a regular yoga practitioner and a trekker, as I already mentioned while introduction. So just quickly going back to Architect Salil, sir, some thoughts to be thrown in.
No, Manish is absolutely right. I mean, you don't need to make, one has to be able to clarify between, this whole social marketing that happens and, the real thing. I mean, so a lot of it is sort of the social marketing that happens, or rather in the social media so this thing about you can't differentiate between somebody who's marketing something to you and actually giving you information. So if you look at it, a tweet or a WhatsApp message, nobody knows what the whole thing is. So suddenly you have all these fancy terms that come in, and he's right, absolutely right. I mean, these Pilates. I don't know. I mean, I don't know those other forms, and I can't, necessarily say that they are bad or anything. But I mean, there is, frankly, these are things that we could, we should be taught in school. Yeah, things like yoga. I mean, you don't need to be 35 and 45 and then, say, oh, I should start it now. I mean, you instead of doing that silly 1, 2, 3 drill with a CT, if we were all taught yoga, we would have all been actually much healthier than we all are, and these are things that you don't need space. You don't, and you imagine if you did it for 10 years instead of doing PT. in school. You would have, and you had to sort of, actually, age of 15, if you were going to get graded on it, you would have been damn good by the time you're 15. And just doing 10 years of it would probably take you through the rest of your life. I mean, I really think that these are things, very simple stuff. You don't need, beyond a point, you don't need equipment, you don't need anything. You just take some, cushions and blankets from your house and start doing, using them. And it's a, and of course, trekking is another joy. I mean, my friends tell me that I've been practicing social distancing professionally, because you sort of go there in the middle of nowhere. You don't meet anybody for, weeks on end. It's a wonderful space to be in. But it sort of humbles you. You go there and you realize there's one rock standing on top of the mountain. It's not going to move at all. Whether you live or die, or whether you live your 80 years of your life or whatever, that one rock and something is not even going to move while we go through our lives with all these mad race that we sort of get stuck in. And sort of it actually humbles you. I suppose I'm not surprised that a lot of these shepherds are actually very good poets, because I mean, you're sitting there looking at, listening to the wind. You have these fantastic, sort of introspective thoughts that come to your mind, and I think
In fact, I guess once you go back to your trekking experiences post-COVID, you'll find the landscape more beautiful than ever.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll love.
I am pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Because whatever is seen all around.
Even
a lot of smiles all around. I'm happy to see all those smiling faces, and I see architect Pushyamitra raising his hand.
Yeah, I was saying that even the doing the household course has humbled us. We now understand, the pity of, or the kind of hardship goes in doing that, and that makes us more human.
But you don't need gym anymore if you do your household work.
So you do
save up both ways, gym cost and.
I'm going to tell.
You don't need a gym if you're doing household chores, boss. It's a given.
Yes, you burn a lot of calories.
I was going to tell Harsh that he was saying that his wife is cheaper for him to get a haircut. He has no clue what she's going to bill him for giving him a haircut. At the end of the day, it's going to be much more expensive.
No, I'm already paying for it since many years, so I guess I can understand that.
But some of us are lucky. We don't have to worry about haircuts. It's really good. You're blessed.
So, with all these smiles, let me just quickly invite and welcome another panelist to the panel from Prism Johnson Limited. Let me invite Mr. Anup Shrikumar, who is the President and Business Head for H&R Johnson Division, especially the tiles business. Anup is one of the pillars when it comes to H&R Johnson and Prism Johnson Limited. He is here to convey the note of thanks on behalf of the entire Johnson family to our esteemed panelists. Welcome, Anup, and over to you.
Thanks, Harsh. Thanks. I mean, I'm really sorry I could join a bit late, but very interesting discussions were going on. I mean, I'm very touchy, and I mean, I was just going through a few discussions. Like there has been a lot of learnings which we have got through this pandemic. I mean, as a sales guys, we always used to believe that without visiting the market, we cannot sell. Without showing the product or without having a feel of the product, we cannot impress our customers. And all those travels, all those business travels are very, very essential to convert into sales in this dynamic and competitive market. So all these things are now in past. We've been very effectively meeting people. On the contrary, we've been very effectively having a great discussions about not only about the industry or products, also about the way forward. And I mean, things are shaping up well. I think in last 3 months, we have now come to a position wherein we can start a new journey together. So once again, a warm welcome and very good evening to all the esteemed panelists on the behalf of entire Prism Johnson family. I wish to thank you all for taking out time and raising this panel. The wonderful thoughts and positivity shared by you today are bound to have a ripple effect on several people. So great discussion. I mean, I was getting feedback in the session. I mean, a great discussions happening over here. So the purpose of this web series is to spread positivity in these testing times, and we have benefited immensely by the optimism shared by all of you, and especially in today's discussion. So my warm regards once again and gratitude also to viewers watching this session live. Thanks a lot. Uh, I really request all of you to stay safe, stay positive, and let's begin a new life altogether. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sash, and thanks all the panelists for sparing your time out over here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anup.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think I'll now take a round and take the concluding remarks from all our panelists. Another ounce of positivity for our viewers who will see us live and who will see us after the session. Just your concluding remarks to all our viewers, and after that we will conclude the session. So I'll start with architect Pushyamitra.
Yeah, a lot of things have already been spoken for all this while on different aspects of this post-pandemic or whatever. But I would say that whether it's post or pre, there's always a change is required in life. It's like unless you change, you will not be able to survive. That's what the nature has always told us. So the line what I would really say is adapt and adopt. So unless you adapt yourself to the changing ways and things around you, and you adopt those things, you will not survive, and that's what you should be doing. And that's going to make the life easy and move forward.
Thank you so much. Now let me go to architect Manish for the concluding remarks before we sort of conclude the session. Over to you, Manish.
I really like this one viewer, Gulabo. He wanted all of us to have a cup of tea, and then his next question was, "Aap TikTok chalate ho kya?" So I in fact replied to him also, and somebody also banned him. So I replied to him, "I don't go for Chinese product right now." So that is the latest topic. So yeah, concluding answer would be right now, let's try to look at positivity in terms of this lockdown, how well it is helping us to build ourselves, both health wise and mentally as well, and try to follow the laws of our country, that is karma. Try to be good to others, because that's going to come back to us. The way it is happening, right from our economy wise to our health wise to our nature, everything put together, that's what we are seeing.
Thank you so much, Manish.
Yeah.
Over to you, architect Rahul.
So I think it was a good discussion, sort of light-hearted and sort of emotional as well. But I think what have we learned in the last 2 months? A, be more flexible. Like I said, you need to have different salons. Let's be a little more sensitive. Let's be the change we want to be. Like Salil said, let's introspect. Like Manish said, let's meditate. And for all the panelists and a lot of guys watching, the real estate segment and architects in general, we guys represent the change. We guys are what are seen in photographs and postcards when people travel, the skyline, the cities. We are their authors in some way. So let's make it better. Let's learn from this experience.
Very aptly put. You guys are the people who put wings to imagination and actually paint the landscapes that we see today. So nobody better than our design fraternity to be the ambassador of change and of shaping up the new future in the times to come. That takes me to architect Salil for his concluding remarks and anything that he would want to add on the parting note.
Well, thank you for this lovely discussion. I mean, I think it's, with all the bandwidth of, where we sort of discussed and all the different subjects and, I think it was a healthy, happy discussion. there's lots of possibilities that I think there's general optimism around in the panel, at least, with everybody's sort of views. And I also believe I am a big optimist of saying that, इंसान को चटका लगता है तो कुछ तो change होता ही है. There's not something that, I can't believe that we are going to, maybe the rivers will still get dirty again, and people will still start honking on the road. But I think in the general good and in the general sense, I do believe that there is optimism, and that people are going to I think we are going to perhaps do better than what we were doing for the last so many decades.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving to our last panelist, Architect Sachin, for your remarks.
So talent will never be out of vogue. And what this situation's done is that it's opened up so many windows of opportunities for all of us as architects, as other professionals. And I think the way we look at it is that now our clientele is not restricted to just Indian clients. I think we have access to now clients from all over the world. There is going to be work happening elsewhere. And I think the only way for us to be relevant is to upskill. I mean, that's a very cliched word during these times. But then I guess, I've been learning a couple of software which I had thought I'd never learn, right? And I always had a reason not to learn them because I would say that I was extremely busy with running the organization. But I think I've got lots of time on hand now, right? I just stopped, washing a couple of vessels and I can learn another software today, right? So I guess it's great times, great opportunities lying ahead. It's just that we need to get ourselves relevant and grab them all.
Thank you so much for those wonderful remarks. I think one of the taglines that I have today stolen from you is positives of disruption. I'm surely going to use that somewhere. And similarly, Architect Salil mentioned a term, isolated yet connected. And couldn't have been a better example of that we all are today having this wonderful discussion over a cup of tea and with some very positive energy and some smiling faces. Sometimes the emotions ran high, sometimes the things went very light, and overall, the context was how much positivity we can emit for the people who have been viewing us. And believe me, gentlemen, as a moderator, I take back bucket full of positivity from all the thoughts that you have been sharing with us. Some wonderful discussions, some very, very, I will say, interesting perspectives to the design philosophy, to the way things should be, to the areas which possibly could be corrected, and also a lot of personal learnings about how we should be conducting ourselves in the times to come. On behalf of Johnson, Prism Johnson Limited, and on behalf of all our viewers, a big shout out and a big round of applause for all our panelists. And couldn't have been more grateful to all of you, sirs, and always an honor and pleasure to connect with you all. I'm sure all the viewers who have been connected and have been watching live, and those who will watch these episodes later on also, they will be deriving a lot of positives out of it. They will be deriving a lot of inspirations out of it, and to a very wonderful, more robust, and a more resilient future. A big thumbs up. Thank you so much on behalf of all of us for being here, for giving us your time, for sharing these exciting thoughts with us. And have a nice evening. Stay safe, gentlemen, and take care of your families. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you so much.